It's been nearly 10 years since more than 500,000 Ukrainians took to the streets of Kyiv, rejecting closer ties with Russia and calling for a European future. Now the country is waiting to hear whether European leaders are ready to open discussions on its membership of the bloc. A few days before the Showdown summit, Ukrainians gathered at this anniversary memorial in Brussels to reflect on the past and hope for the future. The country's Deputy Prime Minister for EU integration says the decision made by EU leaders will be existential for her country.
They mean a lot for Ukraine because this will be a very direct message. It will definitely have its effect on the front line, and depending on the decision, it would be either a strong message to Ukrainian armed forces or the strong message to the Russian armed forces.
President Zelensky submitted Ukraine's application to join the bloc just 3 days after Russian forces began their invasion, charting a clear course towards a future in Europe. That future will now be decided here at the European Council. The EU's 27 heads of state will decide whether or not to open accession negotiations for Ukraine, a process that would put the country firmly on a path to membership. 26 member states are in favour. One isn't. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has repeatedly said his country will veto the talks, claiming Ukraine is too corrupt to join the EU and that its vast agricultural industry could jeopardize the bloc's cherished common agricultural policy. Prime Minister Orbán is also blocking more than $50 billion in new EU aid for Ukraine. Several leaders have attempted to negotiate with him, but none have so far broken the deadlock. One thing that might is money. The European Commission is expected to unfreeze nearly half of the $24 billion it held back from Hungary a year ago over concerns about democratic backsliding and rule of law issues. Prime Minister Orbán's team have hinted that this money, and perhaps even more money, might convince them to lift their veto. Even if Hungary was to agree to opening the talks, the process takes years, and Ukraine would have to make deep reforms to prepare for EU membership.
They have to start opening and closing negotiating chapters on many different topics, whether it's related to the rule of law, agriculture, good governance, minorities. And this is a very lengthy and difficult process. They need to align their laws 100% with the laws of the EU.
Even for countries already closely aligned with the EU, like Sweden and Finland, the process took 2 years. Countries less in lockstep take much longer. Portugal, for example, nearly 7 years. While Turkey's accession talks have remained stalled for nearly 2 decades. Around the corner from the EU's grandiose institutions, the outcome looms large. Ukrainian refugees attending their weekly Dutch lessons feel their country can only be safe in the European Union.
Це саме найголовніше, бо те, що
Whatever is decided here will send a strong message to Russia and a strong message to Ukraine, a message that the European Union has room at its table. Alex Cadier, CNA, Brussels.